It's really easier than we think. Throughout all American history, apart from the wars, every major social justice movement took 1% or less of active, engaged people, as long as they were able either to shape public opinion or reflect already majority public opinion. That's the equation. And we're talking right now, there are 225 million adults, and let's say 1% is 2.5 million. Let's be more conservative and say, how about one half of 1% spending 300 to 500 hours a year connected with one another in every congressional district? Because oftentimes the decider is the Congress, 535 people. We outnumber them, and and it's done, and it's done again and again. And we've done it in the past with far less than one half of 1%. I always like to say to people, think of it as a civic hobby. Watchdogging Congress. I mean, if your neighbor knocked on your door and said, "Hi, I'm your new neighbor. I just want to let you know I spend 23% of your income, can send your children to war, can expose you to all kinds of unfair things on behalf of Wall Street, can use your tax dollars to bail out corporate crooks. See you later." Would you spend any time on your neighbor? Of course you would. Well, that's your member of Congress. It's very simple. We have to break our routine and stop making excuses for ourselves like, oh, they're all sold out. We can't do anything about it. Big money. They carve up the districts to favor Democrat, Republican. But power is still in the people because the Constitution starts we the people, not we the Congress or we the corporation. That's what this book is about. Tremendously motivating book. I give a lot of examples. Ordinary people suddenly become giants in change. Nutrition, for example, or pension rights, or environmental protection, or auto safety. A handful of people. Why? Because most people supported them passively because they want their kids protected. They want to breathe clean air and eat safe food and take safe medicines and all the things that we can do to turn around this country for the better.
Harrison with you. You can follow us anytime on Facebook, keyword Go Harrison. Same thing on Instagram, Go Harrison. Same thing on Twitter, @Go Harrison. As we continue to talk to Ralph Nader, one of our favorite superheroes, whose latest book is called Breaking Through Power, and teaching us it's doable, that we can recapture our own democracy. It doesn't matter what administration is in power. It doesn't matter what corporations are in power, that they ultimately yield when our voices are heard. It's interesting how we're all trying to be convinced by a lot of these, the power. And you talk about plutocracy and oligarchy and how the power concentrates at the top and then does its level best to get rid of democracy. Because what happens if the current 327 million of us here, the mammals crawling around in America, what if we all got together and did a thumbs up or thumbs down? Clean air and water, up, down. Housing, up, down. Well, we know how that's going to go. So a lot of what you talk about in the book is how they get in the way, impede, block, or try to convince us through propaganda that we're crazy, that we don't want this stuff.
Well, here are their tactics. So the ruling groups, and there are always ruling groups in every society, first they divide and rule. And they take the divisive issues, like between left, right, reproductive rights, school prayer, gun control, and that's where they hammer. That's where the press follows them. So people on the left and right are not focusing on the huge areas of change, which are mentioned in this book, they both agree on, left and right. Once conservative liberals agree on something like preserving civil liberties from the erosions of the Patriot Act, criminal justice reform, which is already underway, higher minimum wage, going after enforcement on corporate crime, prosecuting the crooks in Wall Street, breaking up the big banks that are too big to fail, de-bloating the waste in the military and other budgets. It's unstoppable political force. The members of Congress can't handle it. They know how to game liberals. They know how to game conservatives. They don't know how to game both of them coming together. And this book alludes to another book I did called Unstoppable Emerging Left-Right Alliance. Yeah, to dismantle the corporate state. And I list 24 areas ready now in terms of public opinion polls and some actual activity conservatives and liberals could band together and really put force behind we, the people. So the ruling groups like to divide and rule. The second thing they do is they want you to make you feel from the moment you're, a fourth grader, that you can't fight City Hall. You can't take on ExxonMobil. Forget about it. Just, learn to get along by going along. And the schools get along by not teaching us civic skills and giving us civic experience. So we get out of our schools knowing how to practice democracy and build citizen power. So that's another way. The third way is they take away what we own and control it. Like we own the public lands, the big timber, gas, oil, coal companies, rip it off. We own the public airways that radio and TV stations transmit. We're the landlords. The radio and TV stations are the tenants. They get 24 hours free. How about that? You don't need
and the profits.
That. And they decide who gets on and who doesn't.
Right.
I mean, we had 8 days at Constitutional Hall in the Carnegie Institute last year, celebrating the 50th anniversary of my book on safety and speed in a very functional way. It was the greatest gathering of civic leaders and thinkers on more issues and reforms than ever brought together under one roof in American history. And the press blacked it out. See, but it's our property they're using. Public radio, PBS, ABC, CBS, NBC. What's going on here? Well, we got to recover control of what we own, which is a pretty conservative idea, right?
As we continue to talk to Ralph Nader, Harrison with you, just want to remind you to follow us on our YouTube channel where we're giving away Blu-ray DVDs simply for subscribing. Keyword Go Harrison. YouTube channel Go Harrison. Same thing, Facebook. Keyword Go Harrison. Twitter @Go Harrison. And we're talking to Ralph Nader about his new book called Breaking Through Power, and he's giving us the easy directions and showing us that even 1% of the American population suiting up and showing up can actually make a difference to restore our democracy. And then I also see a kind of a bizarre, cynical side when we look at something like Facebook, where there is this ubiquitous fake democracy. Take a poll, vote. And so you're voting on people's underwear and mustaches and whatever, voting hundreds of times a day. Boy, are you engaged in democracy. You're in the freest place on earth. Totally irrelevant.
Yeah, well, you can see that the real polls don't ask important questions. Like, when was the last time you heard a poll on corporate crime enforcement, law and order? I mean, they don't want to ask that poll because 95% of the people would say, yeah, put the federal cops on these corporate crime beats. When was the last time you saw a poll on, do you want to have the Pentagon budget audited? It's the only budget in the U.S. government that's violating federal law since 1992. And maybe that's why they can't account for $9 billion that were lost in Iraq in the first war, that criminal invasion. Or I like this one, Cary. The Air Force have spent hundreds of millions of dollars on spare parts. They couldn't locate where the existing spare parts were in warehouses around the country and the world. An unaudited budget, that would come in 99% of the people would say, of course we have to audit the Pentagon budget that's spending $600 billion or more of our tax money. So they don't ask those kinds of questions. But, I see a lot of effort to make change. Yeah. You get rallies and marches.
Yeah.
But what's missing is the laser beam focus of all this citizen energy that's starting to build up on members of Congress. Because Congress is the deciders, including state legislatures. There are only a handful of these people, 535 senators, representatives in Congress. All roads of civic energy should reach Congress or the state legislature, because that's where the change has to be. You want to have a national conversion to solar and renewable energy and energy efficiency and displace fossil fuels and nuclear? Well, you can turn the lights off when you don't need them and lower the temperature when you don't need it. But the major conversion has got to come from the Congress. That's the body that's been propping up these fossil fuel and nuclear industries, subsidizing them, protecting them, not regulating them adequately. So again, this is why in this book, which is, I think, the best part of the book, in addition to the real life examples that motivate people.
Yeah.
There's a summons. And the summons is from the people back home summoning the senators and representatives to town meetings created by the people in a public area of convenience, like a town hall auditorium or whatever, school auditorium. And the senators and representatives would be summoned by a petition, which keeps adding more and more people. And they show up and they're instructed in what the people want them to do when they go back to Washington. In fact, let's say one of them is for full Medicare for all. Everybody in, nobody out, free choice of doctor and hospital, comes in at half the price per capita. Everybody's covered compared to what we're spending now. And guess what? 60% already of the American people want full Medicare for all. And that's before there's a major party supporting it and talking about it. Well, the people can summon the senators and representatives. They give them the material in advance so that the legislators can do their homework and not just glaze their eyes at the town meeting and nod and smile. And then they have a discussion. 3 hours, let's go. Democracy takes work, it takes time, it takes serious people. Less than 1% of the people can pull this off in every congressional district. And we'll get full Medicare for all, saving billions and billions and billions, saving at least 35,000 lives a year. People who die because they can't afford health insurance to get diagnosed and treated in time. Many more injured, sick for the same reason. And better outcomes. None of these 25-page computerized billing after you go to a hospital for a month, inscrutable billing. You're not going to have $330 billion of billing fraud in the healthcare industry, according to Professor Malcolm Sparrow, Harvard University. I mean, it's all in our hands. It's easier than we think. Major areas can be turned around. Corporate tax reform, huge support. People resent the powerful and rich getting off not paying their fair share of taxes, or in some cases, like General Electric, reporting billions of dollars of U.S.-based profits in the first decade of the 21st century. No tax, no federal income tax. They actually got a refund. They so jiggered the thing that they got a refund. Now, one worker in General Electric, one worker in absolute dollars paid more taxes than that giant company. You think people don't want that change? You don't think there's a left-right support for that? People have got to have a higher estimate of their own significance as citizens, especially if they want to send this country in better shape to their children and grandchildren.
Harrison with you, and if you like democracy, I mean, really, who doesn't? Then you're going to like Ralph Nader's new book, Breaking Through Power, where he easily shows us how to get it done, how to get our senators to listen, how to get Congress to listen. And the good news, it only takes a tiny fraction of us to make that home run. It's all doable. That's why we've got Ralph Nader on today to show us how to do it and to support this show. You too can support this show simply by subscribing on our YouTube channel or donating anything that feels right to you so that we continue to bring high-level voices like Ralph Nader's to you. And let's just end with this thought, because everybody probably asks you the same question. I certainly hear it often enough. How do you stay in the game? How do you continue to keep coming back and fighting when you've been licked so many times? Or you think you have, or you think you will be. How do you stay in?
That's what I call forging your civic personality, where you learn your best teacher is your last defeat. You learn how to be resilient. You're generous and share credit with your friends and colleagues. You make sure that you keep up to date with different things so you're not caught short on your facts and current events. And you're always wondering how to be more effective. Now, in the last couple of decades, things have been pretty tough in Washington, because people who benefited from the wonderful things that came out of the 60s and 70s, consumer environment, worker protections, et cetera, they sort of took it for granted collectively. And the corporations didn't, and they started organizing more lobbyists, more money in politics, et cetera, and began electing their own partisans in the House and Senate. We have to turn it around. Again, look, the corporations have a lot of money. They have a lot of power. They have no votes to speak of. We're the ones who have the votes. Why do members of Congress want the corporations' money? So they can put ads on TV, et cetera, try to get votes or scare off their primary or general election candidates and competitors. But we're the ones who have the real power. I might say that all the trillions of dollars that are controlled by a few giant corporations and super wealthy people, they at one time were our dollars, right, Cary? They were consumer dollars. Apple's got like 200 billion stashed abroad. Those are our dollars. If we know what to do with them through consumer co-ops, through sharper shopping, through community-based small business, credit unions, community banks, renewable energy, local, community health clinics, for example, local transportation systems, and on and on, we would undercut the sales of these giant multinational corporations who pull the strings on us from absentee skyscrapers in Chicago, New York, London, Tokyo, etc., and have no allegiance to country or no loyalty to community. They'll close down and get out, as they've closed down all these factories and gone to fascist and communist regimes abroad, where workers are forced to know their place at 80 cents an hour. So we've got to just go through this. That's why these adult education clinics, how about adult education on civic skills and civic experience, college to community, solving some problem? Nobody's really going to stop you when you have conservative liberals. You give them all cover when you have conservative liberals. And let me tell you, it's often seen that conservatives, are against regulation and all. Conservative families bleed just like liberal families. They bleed from dangerous, defective cars, hazardous medicines. They get ripped off the same way by the banks, by the insurance companies.
Right.
So when you get off the abstraction mountain and you go down where people live, work, and raise their families, there's a lot less this ideological battle, because they have to face reality, unlike Trumpism. They have to face daily reality, and they have daily needs regardless of the labels they put on themselves politically. That's why this book has had such an interest, because it's not an ideological one. It's a book for justice, for fair play, for the kind of country we know we can create.
I love these adult education clinics. I'm going to commit to try to put one together, and maybe when you're in town, you can come and pop in and show us the what for.
Or we can do it by Skype.
Or can we do one by Skype?
Sure, I'd like to do many of them.
Right.
They have distance learning and about how to split genes. Why not distance learning on how to split plutocracy and oligarchy on behalf of a democratic society?
Awesome. All right, I'm going to set this up, and we'll test fly a couple of them. What do you say?
Okay. Everything starts with one, Cary. One citizen, one model, one institution.
And one voice, which if you're a Time Warner, you have millions of voices as one, because corporations are people too, my friend.
Yeah, and that ancient Chinese saying, to know and not to do is not to know. And what you just said, Cary, was and you're going to do the first adult education group that deals with serious citizen skill development and citizen experience as an example to spread all over the country. Hey, if H&R Block did it 6,000 times all over the country, why not Cary Harrison?
All right, I take the challenge. All right, my friend. I do thank you so much, and have a wonderful weekend.
Yeah, you too, Cary. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, Cary.